few years ago, the coach of the English football team got into trouble with the English tabloid press. He'd stated a belief which, although it wasn't described as at the time as a Hindu belief, I don't think so anyway, it is a Hindu belief. And that belief is that we are all responsible for our current situation. We're each responsible for our current situation. Our current situation is due to the results of previous actions. It's due to our karma. So if we're handicapped or if we're poor, then that's due to our past actions. And there was quite a storm in the English media. Maybe they didn't have anything better to report on. I think they had a point, although they put it across in the most blatant of ways. That point is that there is an unpleasant aspect to human nature which tends to feel rather smug at other people's misfortunes. I think it's common to all traditions. Apparently one of the pleasures of being righteous in certain Christian theologies is to have the pleasure of watching the damned being cast down into hell. Some people who are successful, materially successful or healthy, they actually have a sense of moral superiority. They have a sense of moral superiority to people that are ill or poor. And it's a really unpleasant aspect of human nature. It's a really unpleasant tendency that I think we as human beings tend to be susceptible to. And it's possibly summed up in this teaching of karma, of reincarnation and karma. Although to be honest, to be fair, there is actually nothing in the teaching which implies moral superiority to those that are born less fortunate than ourselves. It's just that it tends to feed that tendency. And I think, it'd be a bit dishonest to say that this belief did not feed that tendency. There is quite a cruel, brutal aspect which is apparent in India, and it's certainly arguable to what extent it might be due to this teaching of reincarnation and karma and the results of karma. Within these teachings there's also the teachings of compassion. We have to be in touch with compassion. Somebody's suffering, somebody's circumstance, somebody who's in circumstances that are rather dire, is not somebody who should be on the receiving end of moral superiority. Moral superiority is not something which, if you're going to be self-interested about it, a sense of moral superiority is going to result in, it's actually bad karma, isn't it? Because there's no compassion involved. There's a sense of separation involved, a sense of putting yourself separate from others and above others, which is rather an unwholesome tendency. So if you do believe in karma, then and if you've got that attitude, then you're probably going to reap the rewards of that attitude. So we must be careful with teachings like this, and I wonder to what extent this teaching is saying anything like this anyway. It's like saying the dreamer is responsible for the contents of the dream. from one point of view, the dreamer is clearly responsible because there's nobody else involved. A dream is between the dreamer and the dream. Nobody's telling you what to dream at night. What sort of dreams do you have? Are you responsible for your dreams? So there's this word responsibility, isn't there? You're certainly not consciously responsible. And there we have it. You're not consciously responsible for your dreams. And so you can't, it's possible you're also, so I must say you're not also consciously responsible for the results of your previous actions. There's a, but understand this in terms of an ongoing cause and effect. And the individual ego, the individual consciousness, doesn't really have much say in it. The individual consciousness is as much a victim of all this as anything else. It's all ongoing. It's all a massive swirl of cause and effect, if you like, or process of one thing after another. So I would argue that you're as responsible for your current situation as you're responsible for your dream, the nature of your dreams. And it kind of begs the question what we mean by responsible here. But let's just leave that and let's just take all these teachings with a pinch of salt, which is what we're supposed to do anyway. Now the other teaching of the Yoga Vasistha, which is, well, the teaching of the Yoga Vasistha, is that life is a dream. Not that life is like a dream, it is a dream. It's of the same nature as dream. We just have built this belief that it's somehow something separate. And I wonder if this teaching has some knee-jerk revulsion, the way the teaching of karmic responsibility has in us. I mean, there's some nice things. If life is a dream, then there's certain implications to that. If all this is nothing but a dream, which we wake up from at some point, probably at the point of death, then what are the implications of this? Well, one implication is that, well, maybe we don't have to worry about things so much. It's like when you do something bad in a dream and you wake up feeling terrible. You can say to yourself, well, it was only a dream. You know, if that thing had happened in the dream, it would be really terrible. But it didn't happen, so you don't have to worry about it. But what about that corpse in the bathroom? What about that corpse, that person that you killed, and that corpse is in the bathroom? Well, you wake up from it and you think, oh gosh, it was only a dream, I didn't really kill that person. So are we saying that if you kill somebody, it ultimately doesn't matter? If you're responsible for genocide, it doesn't matter. If you torture somebody, it doesn't ultimately matter. It's all a dream. But this is a very worrying thing, isn't it? This is very worrying. Isn't this what the psychotic murderer perhaps experiences? Aren't we somehow giving a metaphysical framework to the psychotic? I've actually got a definition of psychosis here from the dictionary, Chambers Dictionary. Psychosis is characterized by a loss of contact with reality. Loss of contact with reality. Well, from the Yoga Vasistha, that definition would apply to most of us. But it's the loss of contact with reality is in the form of delusions or hallucinations and belief that only one's own actions are rational.